Every night I strain my ears to hear her voice, a faint and secretive voice from the other side of the wall. I'm intrigued by that voice from the thin wall every evening. What kind of secrets is she hiding? Ah, look, I can hear it faintly again tonight. I press my ear against the wall to listen to her secretive voice. My name is Chris, and I'm turning 28 this year. I work for an IT startup. I chose this company because I was impressed by the CEO who founded it. He started the company when he was in college. In no time, he rose to the top of the industry. Of course, he's good at his job, but I think his charismatic nature is what really draws people in. I would say that he is a people person. When the CEO convinces you of something, it's hard to resist. I looked up to him. Someday, I wanted to start my own company just like him and rule from the top. That was my goal. I've been working hard, and people inside the company think pretty highly of me. Even outside, a few folks recognize my name. I'm always grateful because I feel the CEO favors and supports me. Then one day the CEO personally called me in. I thought he had a new job for me, so I kept my spirits up before entering his office. With a large window behind him, the CEO sat looking confident. I thought, man, he really does look cool. He began without any preamble.
If it's something I can do, I'll give it my all.
I replied. The CEO seemed pleased with my response. Of course, he probably never expected me to answer any differently. I think everything's going just as he predicted. I was taken aback by the CEO's words. For a moment, I couldn't comprehend what he just said. While I was still in shock, the CEO began to lay out the conditions of the task. I understood that if I maintained this fake marriage for a year, I'd get the position I desired. He said with a solid tone, didn't expect any refusal. I doubt anyone in the company could stand up to the CEO when he's this determined.
Understood. Who's the woman?
I replied, trying to stay as calm as possible. The CEO then made a call to summon someone. Since it's an internal line, it means the woman is an employee at our company. I had a hunch at this point. There's been talk of a woman rumored to be the CEO's mistress within the company. Of course, the CEO is a married man. I'm just being used as a diversion. Excuse me. After a polite knock, the person who walked in was just who I had suspected. An accountant named Catherine. I believe she's about a year older than me. For an IT startup employee, she's quite plain and unremarkable. I can only recall having brief, business-related conversations with her.
Chris has agreed to everything. Catherine, you'll marry Chris.
At the CEO's words, Catherine quietly nodded.
She looked at me, tilted her head slightly, and said, "Pleased to be working with you."
I couldn't read anything from that expression. It wasn't emotionless, but I couldn't tell what she was thinking. That's how I ended up as the guy who won the CEO's mistress, after a secret office romance. I thought the fake marriage would be just about living together, but we actually got legally married. Couldn't fool the HR department. The CEO provided a new apartment and furnished it entirely for us. It's a marriage with all the bells and whistles. I've decided to keep it a secret from my parents for now. I'll just wing it if they ever find out. It'll be just a year. They probably won't hear about it in my hometown out of state. The CEO's order was to divorce after about 6 months to a year, probably when his wife's suspicions clear up. It's a fake marriage, so we have separate rooms. No intimacy allowed. Just like roommates. We didn't have a wedding ceremony, just took photos. She looked surprisingly beautiful in her white dress, which was a shock. The thick glasses she usually wears were the problem. I didn't know her real face until we took the photos. On our first night as a married couple, she bowed her head to me slowly.
"I'm truly sorry for all the trouble because of John's whims. Please bear with it for a while."
John is the CEO. His full name is Jonathan. I figured, so the rumors about him having a mistress were true.
All I could say was, oh, okay.
If I can endure for half a year to a year, my promotion is guaranteed. But I wonder if she's promised something after that time. Does she intend to always live in the shadows? Such deep thoughts crossed my mind, but I tried not to dwell on it. I didn't want to get too involved. On the third night of our fake marriage, I woke up in the middle of the night. The beer I had before bed made me thirsty. I left my room to get water from the fridge in the kitchen. The hallway was pitch dark and silent. Then I heard a faint whisper. It was so soft, I couldn't make it out clearly. A truly secretive voice. It took me a moment to realize it was Catherine's voice. Because the voice was so unbelievably gentle, speaking softly with someone, while occasionally laughing.
John, don't laugh too much or he'll wake up.
It seemed Catherine was on the phone with the CEO. Currently, it's 2:30 in the morning. They sure seem like they're sneaking around. I tried my best to walk down the hallway without making any noise. I didn't want to rudely interrupt their moment. Playing the role of a husband in a fake marriage is no walk in the park. I sighed. I eavesdropped on Catherine and the CEO's whispered conversation through the thin wall. I know it's ethically wrong, but this has become a habit of mine. Catherine and I continued our fake marriage. We barely talk, even when we're both home. It's not out of boredom, but I'd like to dip my toes into their secret world every now and then. Maybe I could find some weakness on the CEO. Information is power in this world. The more you know, the closer you're to winning. Tonight, the two of them started their whispered conversation again. Through the wall, I could hear Catherine's voice full of compassion. Of course, I couldn't hear the CEO's voice. However, her comforting words seemed to be constantly cheering him up, and they also healed me.
Are you okay? Are you tired? Are you eating properly?
Such simple and kind words. I wonder if he was trying to make her laugh, but she giggled quite a bit. Even though they were in a relationship, I never heard them say I love you. It was just her, constantly worrying about him and cheering him up. It's a strange kind of affair. The change in our pretend marriage came about a month after our wedding. She figured out that I had been eavesdropping on her conversations with the CEO.
Like always, after she said goodnight, she hung up the phone.
I thought I could just go to bed.
Chris, we need to talk.
Suddenly, Catherine's voice echoed through the wall. I froze on the spot, not sure how to respond. I considered playing dead, but Catherine delivered the coup de grace.
I know you're awake. Come out to the living room right now.
It felt like she was negotiating with a hostage taker. I gave in, leaving my room for the living room. Catherine followed shortly after. I braced myself for a confrontation. Ready to apologize, I looked up, but was momentarily stunned. Caught off guard, I forgot my apology and just stared. I was wearing what seemed to be her high school tracksuit. An emblem and a name embroidered on the matching top and bottoms. And she was wearing even thicker, black-rimmed glasses than she had during the day. It was quite a surprising look. After their intimate conversations, I was expecting something more seductive, but this had zero appeal. In front of the flabbergasted me, Catherine quickly brewed some tea for us.
Eavesdropping is not acceptable. It's against the rules, isn't it?
I was accused, and it irked me. Breaking the rules. A fake marriage is also breaking the rules. Hell, having an affair might as well be breaking the rules.
To hear breaking the rules from your lips, Catherine, you sure can say that with a straight face.
I intended to apologize, but ended up making a sharp retort. I guess the stress of this fake marriage had been building up. It's not entirely Catherine's fault, but I felt like all the blame was on her. I greatly admire the CEO. The CEO is not at fault. I'm well aware this is a biased opinion.
I follow my own rules.
She said it so firmly that I was left speechless. She gestured for me to sit on the living room couch. I sat in silence, facing her directly. It was the first time I'd really looked at her since this fake marriage began.
Please, no more eavesdropping. It's an invasion of privacy.
Hearing her straightforward point triggered me. I did agree to this fake marriage as a part of a deal with the CEO. They probably see me as a pitiful man who was lured by ambition. Perhaps I'm even looked down upon. Realizing this, I felt a mix of shame and unreasonable anger. I wanted to unleash all of my anger onto Catherine, who sat in front of me with a composed look. My clenched fists trembled with rage.
Don't you have anything to say?
Her matter-of-fact tone made my restraint fly out the window.
What? Who do you think you are, acting all high and mighty while being the CEO's mistress? Without this fake marriage, you wouldn't even have a place here.
I stood up abruptly, but she calmly looked up at me, lifting her chin just a bit. There was no emotion on her face. It seemed my words didn't get to her at all.
You probably laughed behind my back, thinking I'm a lowlife for accepting such a ridiculous deal for my own advancement. Right? Pathetic.
Ranting on, I was practically full with rage. This fake marriage made me despise myself for the first time. I feel like such a fool. Indeed, all the words that I lashed out at Catherine were what I wanted to hurl at myself.
You should be proud of yourself, Chris. You accepted the dirty job based on your beliefs. There's nothing to be ashamed of.
She said, looking me straight in the eyes. From her tone and sincere expression, I could tell she wasn't just trying to console me with empty words. Her words deflated my anger instantly, and I was taken aback.
Chris, you're a man of conviction.
Feeling weak in the knees, I sat back on the couch. How did she know exactly what I needed to hear?
I'm sorry. I took out my frustrations on you.
When I think about it, Catherine is also a victim of the CEO's ego. Seeing her serious face, I began to calm down.
You've heard the rumors about me and the CEO, haven't you? It seems his wife found out about them.
Catherine explained everything step by step. I hadn't heard any details from the CEO. She took the initiative to talk to me, thinking it would be stressful for me in such a situation. It seems the CEO had Catherine and me enter into a fake marriage to deceive his wife. If we went as far as getting married, suspicions would naturally be cleared. It's apparently a matter of patience until his wife lets her guard down.
Can I ask you just one thing, if I can answer it?
If I can answer it.
I posed a question that had been on my mind for a long time.
Are you the CEO's mistress?
There are indeed rumors in the company that the two of them are in a romantic relationship. But that's based on minor things, like seeing them walking closely together or meeting privately. There's no concrete proof of a romantic relationship. I wanted to clear this up. Catherine looked slightly troubled by my question. She seemed to be pondering the best way to answer. Opening her mouth, then closing it again, she hesitated.
How can I put this to make it clear to you? I'm not sure if I'd call it a romantic relationship. However, I do feel that the CEO looks out for me.
I felt there wasn't a trace of deceit in her carefully chosen words. I realized she responded sincerely to my question.
I see. Thank you for sharing. Here's a suggestion from me. Since it's a fake marriage, why don't we try to enjoy it a bit?
What?
Catherine looked genuinely surprised by my proposal. I've never seen her with such a shocked expression. She looked adorable, like a surprised squirrel.
Oh, I don't mean it in a weird way. I'm talking about enjoying our pretend married life. It'd be tough to keep using formal language with each other for 6 months, especially since we work together. Being distant might come off as odd, don't you think?
Catherine listened to my pitch with a tilted head. Then with a chuckle, she extended her right hand.
Well, let's make the best of it, shall we, husband?
When I shook her hand, it was small and it gave me a slight thrill. Ever since that night, where we had an honest conversation, the distance between Catherine and I has been rapidly shrinking. We commute together, and I eat the lunch she prepares for me. When one of us has to work late, we let each other know. Whoever has more free time handles the chores. Living together, you get to see sides of her you wouldn't have known at the office. Like how she burns her tongue easily or hates mushrooms. Or how she's not the best at folding laundry. Or how she dreams of adopting a kitten from a rescue center. I love watching her laugh out loud at comedy shows by my side. But that's where my exclusive time with her ends. Late at night, she gets calls from the CEO. Whenever the phone rings, she retreats to her room for a private conversation with him. I feel completely left out. Every day, the nights feel lonelier, and it bothers me. The CEO remains unchanged. He treats both me and her the same way as before. I was getting a bit irritated by his attitude. Did he really trust her, or did he not think for a moment that she could fall for me? By the time half a year had passed, I realized I was in love with Catherine. But in her heart, there was only room for the CEO. I was fully aware of that. Yet I couldn't let go of that slight hope. I was told that this fake marriage would last between 6 months to a year. I was surprised at myself for wishing this life would go on forever. Time has passed, and it was halfway through our fake marriage. Catherine and I had a rhythm going, understanding each other's likes and dislikes, much like a real couple. On weekends, she joined me in my passion for outdoor activities, even trying camping for the first time. Eager to try solo camping. Lately, we spent every weekend shopping at outdoor stores. For me, I've become a fan of the tea she brews after meals. She looks so dignified and beautiful, gracefully preparing her tea. When I expressed a desire to learn the art of tea making, she introduced me to a class, and now we attend together. After our tea class, we always grab some burgers together. She gets as excited as a child when I take her to a new tasty spot. I wish this happy life would continue forever. Just when I started to wish from the bottom of my heart, something happened. At my office desk, I was occupied with loads of work. Today, I had plans to dine out with her. There's no way I could work late. That's when I spotted her, sneaking between the desks. In her hand, she held an envelope and a list, probably collecting money for some occasion. Whenever there's something to celebrate or mourn at the office, Catherine, being in accounting, collects the funds. It was a familiar sight.
I'm sorry for interrupting your work. I'm here to collect some money.
She stood next to my desk.
Is someone getting married, or did something unfortunate happen?
I asked her while searching for my wallet. I could sense a hint of tension in her posture. She was behaving differently, so I looked up. Her face was as expressionless as always, but now I could tell she was desperately hiding her emotions.
The CEO's wife is pregnant, so it's a celebration.
My hand jerked in surprise, dropping my wallet. Coins scattered on the floor with clinking sound.
The CEO's... but...
Catherine bent down to carefully pick up the coins.
Well, the CEO has been married for 5 years now. It's about time, right? It's wonderful news.
She said flatly, placing the coins gently in my palm.
I'll come back later to collect. Take your time.
She said and left, her retreating figure looking smaller than ever. Watching her back, anger towards the CEO welled up in me. He tricked Catherine, pretending to be loyal to his wife. All the while, Catherine had been waiting for him. What's the point of our fake marriage? I was suddenly filled with resentment towards the CEO. I need to talk to him. I headed towards the CEO's office. Just as I was about to knock, the CEO's secretary opened the door.
He looked surprised and said, "Perfect timing."
Apparently, he was about to call me. Nodding to the secretary, I entered the CEO's office. The CEO seemed just as I remembered him. Recognizing me, he gestured for me to come closer. Then he handed me something, a name tag with a new title on it. Among my colleagues, it was an unbelievably rapid promotion. It was everything I had aimed for since joining the company. However, his eyes aren't laughing. Anger surged as the words left the CEO's mouth. Catherine isn't an object. The way the CEO casually mentioned taking her back infuriated me.
Isn't she free to live her life? Do you plan on keeping her trapped and making her suffer forever?
It was the first time I'd ever stood up to the CEO. But I felt that I had to say something. I might have been intimidated before, but not now. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. I don't need this position because I have no intention of divorcing her. She's already my wife. I blurted out my words. The usually composed CEO was yelling. The CEO and I locked eyes, tension filling the room. Then, without a knock, the door to the CEO's office swung open.
Joe, my feelings matter to you, she said.
It was Catherine. Her face wasn't its usual expressionless self. Her face crumpled, tears shimmering in her eyes.
I won't divorce. I no longer need your protection, John. You have a duty to make your wife happy, she said.
With that, she turned and gave me a smile. I was taken aback and speechless. It was the first time I heard her true feelings.
Chris respects my freedom. He teaches me new things and tries to share the same view as me. I don't want to wait anymore for what's to be given.
The CEO, after hearing her words, slumped into his chair and holding his head. What did I do wrong? You said you wanted me to wait. So I did without laying a hand on you. I even proposed a fake marriage to protect you. What did I do wrong? Are you abandoning me too? She seemed to chew on the CEO's groaning words.
John, you have to realize I'm just a convenient little sister figure for you, right? It's also hard for me to continue deceiving you with kind gestures.
The CEO looked up at her, his eyes resembling those of a forsaken child. She wore a compassionate smile.
I will become Chris's wife, a real wife, through sickness and old age, always together.
She smiled and I nodded strongly. Our hands clenched tightly, hers responding with a gentle squeeze.
Thank you for everything, CEO.
I bowed to the man I'd always admired.
Both of you, get out. Don't show your faces again. Leave the apartment as soon as possible.
Energetically, we replied, sure.
As we exited his office, we heard the CEO's muffled cries from behind the door. Catherine and I then resigned together and quickly moved out of the apartment.
I'm glad that it was you that I married for the fake marriage.
She said this as we left the building.
Let's look forward to starting today.
The pleasure is all mine, my sweetie.
She whispered into my ear, making me jump. I blushed, covering my ears, and Catherine burst into laughter. It seems Catherine always had the upper hand. I had a feeling I'd be under her thumb, but I thought it would be fun as long as I'm with her. I may have lost the career success I dreamed of, but I gained something much more precious. I believe I'm the real winner in life. I will make you happy no matter what.
She laughed and said, I'm counting on it.
I'm willing to bet my entire life on meeting her expectations.